Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I am your ever-loving host, Shorty, and I'm back in a comic book store. By the window to it. Did one yesterday at home, and did not realise until I got going quite how bad my laptop camera is at home. I've not used it for that purpose for a very, very long time. Apologies for the distinct lack of quality. It is a shame because the artwork for that one was absolutely brilliant. Straight off the bat, I'm going to tell you that work for Terminal Punks is not quite up to the same quality, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Don't mean oh my god, it's terrible artwork. I just mean you're not going to get the level of detail. Terminal Punks is very, very punk, in fact. It's lo-fi, very good line-based art, hand-done shading, which looks fantastic. It's not just cross-hatching, it's actual proper shading, and everything about it looks hand-done, which is really, really nice, because gotta be honest, if you're going to make a comic book and have the word punk in the cover, you kind of have to do something a little bit anti-authoritarian, I suppose, a little bit against the normal. Now, I know doing a comic book called Punks and doing it by any kind of mainstream publisher is also a little bit against the grain. It's the kind of thing which should be published in some guy's basement, hand-printed themselves and stapled together. But can't really hold it against them for wanting to put this out and actually get an audience for it, because it's actually pretty damn good. And it does have a punk element running through it. But before we get to that, we haven't talked about the artwork. And it's kind of summed up quite nice in the first page. It doesn't really do anything other than what it does in this first page. It's kind of almost old school comic strip art from newspapers. It reminds me of Doonesbury a little bit. It's all very, very simple. There's not really anything that you need extra there. The eyes are a nice touch because they're either just dots or circles throughout the entire thing, which means when people die, and yep, people are gonna die, you actually get the fun chance to do something a bit different. With the little crosses through the eyes, reminds me of a lot of old school cartoon horror kind of stuff. And look at the goriness on there. But again, the art level doesn't step up. It doesn't try to be anything more than it's supposed to be. It doesn't add additional extra shading. It doesn't, it's not another half an hour spent inking the various blood spatters on it. It's just gore and it's horror, and that's cool. That's it's a movie about, it's a comic book about monsters. Get that straight off the bat, but it is a creature feature. And that fits with the punk aesthetic as well quite nicely. It's lo-fi. It doesn't try to be anything it's not. I mean, think of Snakes on the Plane, stuff like that. There's a long history of kind of cheesy-ass monster movies involving airplanes. Having a bunch of punks in there is kind of good fun because you get their vibe running throughout it. And since, as is the case in an awful lot of monster movies, even the Jurassic Park kind of stuff, it's usually the fault of people trying to make a buttload of money or fulfilling their own twisted need because they're so rich they think they can get away with anything. And standing in the face of that is very punk. It's pretty much what punk should be doing. So yeah, I've said punk a lot. But it's called Terminal Punks. And I didn't realize why it was called Terminal Punks at first. The cover kind of has an airport in the background, and I should have realized that because literally they're trapped in a terminal because they're on a plane going after winning a battle of the bands, going to their next gig in New York, I believe. And some rich douchebag has transported a bunch of animals, which have, he thinks they're animals, they might be monsters. It's never made 100% clear if he's actually just found monsters or if the gas used to knock them out for the flight so they don't, get too stressed out is what turned them into monsters. Because there's also some weird compound that's also on the plane which could have reacted to the gas, which you find out just from a random conversation with a CDC person, and it's that is just purely random. No idea if it adds anything to the story. No idea if it's the point of the story. It's kind of cool because they just throw it in there. If I'm going to criticize it at all, and I'm afraid I have to do a little bit here, I'm sorry about this, is the plot holes. Because the terminal punks get off an airplane full of people, but then when you get to the terminal, it's pretty much completely empty. You don't really get a sense of where everyone else has gone. A few people are still milling around getting eaten by monsters. You see 2 or 3 people that happens to, but not an airplane full of people. And the lights are out and it's dead. There's nobody around. And it feels like there's not much of an explanation for that one. And there's also a bit where a CDC person gets killed, but when you see them, they are a corpse still in their environment protection suits. So it's what happened to a skeleton. So what happened to all their skin that it killed them, but didn't really do much damage to the suits? And it's what the hell's going on with that? Was that a result of the gas that's going on, or is it just one of those weird monsters has some really cool gnarly abilities? No idea. And these plot holes don't particularly spoil the comic books. Again, it's got that kind of just rampant, let's do what we want to do kind of attitude for it, and that works really quite nicely. But the comic book reader in me is still yeah, but why? And also the writing's great. You've got 4 cool characters, and you get like fairly nice little intro to them, and their characters developed throughout, which is quite nice. 5th one gets introduced at the end, who's not a member of the band, and you also get like quite a decent bit of, I'll say, representation, which is always kind of cool to see in comic books, especially one which is dealing with counterculture and that kind of thing. What you don't want is just a bunch of middle-aged white guys. So yeah, all very, very well done. Apart from the plot holes, and if you're not a fan of the lo-fi artwork, it might not be for you. But I had a bloody good time reading it, and I'm looking forward to issue 2. That's it for me, though. Might be back tomorrow, but we'll go from home, so let's see how bad it'll look. Take it easy. Bye.